My son stood in my living room, pointed toward the garage door, and said, "From now on, you'll sleep out there. Jessica needs your bedroom for her home office." I looked at him, this man I had raised, sacrificed for, loved with every fiber of my being, and I saw a stranger. A week later, he called me sobbing, begging me to come back. But by then, I was already gone, and so was his inheritance. I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled. I spent 38 years building a life I was proud of. My name is Dorothy, and at 67 years old, I thought I had seen everything life could throw at me. My husband, Frank, and I raised our only son, Michael, in a modest colonial home in Rochester, New York. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. We saved diligently, invested wisely in Frank's 401k, and paid off our mortgage 7 years early. That house, the one on Maple Street with the wraparound porch and the garden I tended every summer, represented everything we had worked for. When Frank passed away 3 years ago from pancreatic cancer, I inherited everything we'd built together. The house, valued at $485,000, his pension, our joint savings of $312,000, and his life insurance policy of $250,000. It wasn't a fortune by Manhattan standards, but for Rochester it was enough for me to live comfortably for the rest of my days, and perhaps leave something meaningful behind for Michael and his family. Michael had always been a good son, or so I thought. He called every Sunday without fail, visited on holidays, brought his wife, Jessica, and their 2 children, Emma, 12, and little Thomas, 8. We had traditions. Friday night dinners when they could make it. Birthday celebrations with homemade cakes. Christmas mornings, opening presents around my tree. I helped them when I could. Babysitting on weekends so they could have date nights. The occasional financial gift when they needed it. When Michael and Jessica bought their house in Pittsford, I gave them $45,000 for the down payment. When Jessica's car broke down, I bought her a new Honda Accord, $28,000. When Emma needed braces, when Thomas wanted to join travel soccer, when Jessica decided she deserved a mental health vacation to Cancun, I was always there, checkbook in hand. That was my role, I thought. That was what mothers did. The first crack appeared about 18 months ago. Michael called on a Tuesday evening, his voice tight with stress. They needed $15,000. Jessica's boutique marketing business had hit a rough patch, he said. Cash flow problems. They'd pay me back within 6 months. I didn't hesitate. I transferred the money the next day. But something nagged at me. When I mentioned the marketing business at our next Friday dinner, asking Jessica how the rebranding campaign was going, she looked confused. "What rebranding campaign?" she asked, reaching for the wine bottle. Michael jumped in quickly. "Mom's confused. I told her about the website redesign, not a rebrand." But the damage was done. I saw the lie in his eyes. I knew my son's face better than I knew my own reflection, and that slight twitch at the corner of his mouth, the way he wouldn't meet my gaze. I had seen that expression before. When he was 15 and told me he was studying at a friend's house. When he was 22 and claimed he hadn't dented my car. I started paying attention. Really paying attention. The way Jessica's face hardened whenever I mentioned money. the way Michael steered conversations toward my plans, specifically what I intended to do with the house. The casual suggestions that I should think about downsizing, the concerned comments about how hard it must be for me to maintain such a big house at my age. At my age, I was 65 then. I power walked 3 miles every morning. I volunteered at the library 3 days a week. I had just finished reading Dostoevsky's complete works for the 3rd time. But suddenly, my son and his wife seemed very concerned about my ability to manage my own affairs. "Mom, have you thought about a nice apartment?" Jessica asked one evening, swirling her Merlot. "Something smaller, more manageable." "The house is perfectly manageable," I replied. "But the upkeep, the property taxes, wouldn't it be easier to sell? Put the money somewhere safe?" I noticed she said somewhere safe, not somewhere useful. And I noticed the way Michael nodded along, not meeting my eyes. 3 months later, Michael asked for another loan, $20,000 this time. Jessica's business again. They needed to hire an assistant, expand their client base. I transferred it the following week. The repayment I'd been promised from the first loan, never mentioned again. Then came the dinner invitation that changed everything. Michael called on a Wednesday in October, unusually cheerful. "Mom, we want to have a family meeting this Saturday. Dinner at our place. We have something important to discuss." I assumed they were finally going to address the money they owed me. Or perhaps announce another grandchild. Jessica had been talking about wanting a 3rd. I bought a nice bottle of wine and drove to Pittsford that Saturday evening. The autumn leaves brilliant against the gray sky. The moment I walked in, I knew something was wrong. Jessica was wearing that smile, the one that never reached her eyes. Michael looked nervous, fidgeting with his wedding ring. The children were notably absent, shipped off to Jessica's mother's house for the evening. We made awkward small talk through dinner. Jessica had ordered in from an Italian restaurant. She never cooked when I visited anymore, despite the fact that I had taught her my mother's lasagna recipe when she and Michael first got engaged. Michael refilled my wineglass twice without me asking. Finally, over tiramisu, Jessica cleared her throat. "Dorothy, we've been talking about the future." I set down my fork. "What about the future?" Michael jumped in. "Mom, you know we love you. You know we want what's best for you." "Of course," I said slowly. Jessica reached across the table and placed her hand over mine. Her fingers were cold, her French manicure perfect. "We've been worried about you, Dorothy, alone in that big house. The neighborhood isn't what it used to be. The neighborhood is fine, and you're not getting any younger. We've been doing some research, and we think it would be best for everyone if you moved in with us." I blinked. This wasn't what I had expected. "Moved in with you?" "We have the space," Michael said quickly. "We could convert the den into a bedroom for you. You'd be right here with family. We could look after you." For a moment, just a moment, I felt a warmth spread through my chest. My son wanted me close. He was worried about me. He loved me. Then Jessica spoke again. "And of course, it only makes sense for you to sell the house. Property values are high right now. You could get over $500,000 for it. We could invest it. Well, Michael could invest it for you. He's so good with money." The warmth disappeared. "Invest it," I repeated. "In our name, of course, for protection. You wouldn't want to lose it to nursing home costs if something happened." I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was studying his dessert, unable to meet my gaze. "Michael," I said quietly, "look at me." He raised his eyes. "Is this what you want, for me to sell my home and hand you the money?" "Mom, it's not like that." "Then what is it like?" Jessica interrupted. "Dorothy, we're thinking about your future, about what happens if you get sick, if you need care. This is responsible planning." "I have long-term care insurance," I said. "I have a financial advisor. I have a lawyer. I've done my planning, Jessica." Her smile flickered. "Well, of course, but family should be involved." "Why?" "What? Why should family be involved in my financial planning? I'm 65, not 95. I'm in perfect health. I'm of sound mind. More sound than some people at this table, it seems." Michael stood abruptly. "Mom, that's not fair." "What's not fair is being invited to dinner under false pretenses so my son and his wife can pressure me into selling my home." "We're not pressuring you." "Then I'll decline the offer. I appreciate your concern, but I'm perfectly happy in my house. Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I'll head home." I collected my purse and my coat. At the door, I turned back. They were both standing in the dining room, looking at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. "Thank you for dinner," I said. "I'll see myself out." The drive home was quiet, too quiet. Something had shifted, and I felt it deep in my bones, like the ache that comes before a storm. The text message arrived 3 days later. I was pruning my rose bushes in the backyard, the October morning crisp and bright. Sunlight filtered through the yellowing leaves of my old maple tree, and I was at peace, or as close to peace as I'd been since that dinner. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, expecting a reminder about my dentist appointment. Instead, I saw Michael's name and a block of text that made my stomach drop. "Mom, we need to talk about living arrangements. Since you won't consider selling the house, we've decided to move forward with Plan B. Jessica and I have discussed it, and we're going to move in with you. We'll arrive this weekend with the kids. Since you have 4 bedrooms, we'll take the master and convert the guest rooms for Emma and Thomas. You can sleep in the garage. We'll insulate it and add a space heater. It's time you faced reality. You're getting older, and you need family around. The house should have been in Michael's name years ago anyway. This is what Dad would have wanted." I read it 3 times. Then I sat down on my garden bench, my hands trembling, not from the cold. The garage. My son wanted me to sleep in the garage of my own home, the home I had paid for, raised him in, maintained for 32 years. This is what Dad would have wanted. No, this was not what Frank would have wanted. Frank would have been furious. Frank would have driven to Pittsford and had words with Michael that would have blistered paint off walls. But Frank wasn't here, and apparently, in his absence, my son had decided I was no longer a person to be respected, just an obstacle between him and a house. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. A space heater. They would give me a space heater in the garage while they took over my bedroom. Something inside me cracked. And then something else grew stronger. I took a deep breath. I straightened my spine, feeling the familiar ache in my lower back that I'd earned through decades of hard work. And I typed a response. Okay. That was all. Nothing more. I hit send and set the phone down in the grass. Then I went inside, washed my hands, and made myself a cup of tea. Earl Grey, Frank's favorite. I sat at the kitchen table where we'd shared 40 years of morning conversations, and I thought. They were planning to move in this weekend, 4 days away. They expected me to simply capitulate, to accept being shoved into the garage like old furniture no one wanted anymore. They didn't know me at all. That afternoon, I called Robert Chen, our family attorney. I'd known Robert for 23 years. He had drafted Frank's will, handled our estate planning, guided me through the probate process after Frank's death. "Robert," I said when he answered, "I need to revise my will completely. Can you fit me in this week?" "Of course, Dorothy." I could hear the concern in his voice. "Is everything all right?" "Everything is perfectly clear," I replied. "For the first time in months, perhaps years, I see my situation with absolute clarity." We scheduled a meeting for the following morning. I also called my financial advisor, Patricia Goldberg, and requested a complete review of my accounts. Then I called a locksmith. By sunset, I had changed every lock in my house. The next morning, I sat in Robert Chen's office with a folder of documents I had spent the previous evening gathering. Bank statements, property records, the $35,000 in loans that Michael had never repaid, records of every financial gift I had given him and Jessica over the years. I had kept meticulous records, a habit Frank had instilled in me. "Dorothy," Robert said, reviewing the text message I had printed out, "this is concerning." "It's illuminating," I corrected. "My son has revealed his true intentions. I'd like to respond appropriately. What did you have in mind?" "First, I want to remove Michael completely from my will. Everything goes to the Rochester Public Library Foundation, the University of Rochester Scholarship Fund, and the animal shelter on East Avenue. I've volunteered there for 15 years. Split evenly between the three." Robert nodded slowly. "That's your right, of course, but have you considered—" "I've considered everything. I've considered 38 years of sacrifice. I've considered $45,000 for his down payment, $28,000 for his wife's car, $35,000 in loans that were never repaid, plus countless smaller gifts over the years. I've considered the fact that my son just informed me via text message that I should sleep in my own garage." Robert was quiet for a moment. "I'll draw up the new documents. Second," I continued, "I want to create a trust for my grandchildren, Emma and Thomas, $50,000 each, accessible when they turn 25, not a penny before, and absolutely not accessible to their parents. That's very generous. They're children. They didn't choose their parents. But I want to make sure that if they ever need help getting away from that environment, they'll have resources." Robert made notes. "Anything else?" "Yes, I want to document everything that's happened. The loans, the pressure to sell my house, the text message. I want it on record that I am of sound mind and that I am making these decisions freely, without coercion, in response to my son's attempts to pressure me into giving up my assets." "Dorothy," Robert set down his pen, "are you expecting them to contest this?" "I'm expecting them to try everything," I said, "and I intend to be prepared." I returned home to find Michael's car in my driveway. He was standing on the front porch, jabbing at the doorbell repeatedly. When he saw me pull in, his face shifted through several emotions: surprise, then anger, then a forced smile. "Mom, why didn't you answer the door?" "I wasn't home." I walked past him and unlocked the new lock. He tried to follow me inside, but I turned in the doorway, blocking him. "I don't recall inviting you in, Michael." "What?" Mom, don't be ridiculous. There's nothing ridiculous about setting boundaries in my own home. I kept my voice even. A home you told me I should vacate so I could sleep in the garage. His face reddened. That came out wrong. Did it? Let me read it again. I pulled out my phone. You can sleep in the garage. We'll insulate it and add a space heater. What part of that came out wrong? Jessica and I were just trying to what? Force me out of my own bedroom? Take over my house? It's not your house, Mom. Not really. Dad built that equity. Dad paid the mortgage. I'm his only son. I have a right. I held up my hand. Stop. He stopped. Your father and I were married for 40 years. In New York, that makes this house mine. Not yours. Not family property. Mine. And I have the legal right to do whatever I want with it. I stepped back. You're not welcome here today, Michael. Go home. Mom, go. Home. His jaw worked. For a moment I saw the little boy I had raised, confused, hurt. But then his expression hardened into something I didn't recognize. You're making a huge mistake, he said quietly. You need us. You can't live alone forever. When you're sitting in some nursing home with no one to visit you, remember this moment. I'll remember it, I said. Goodbye, Michael. I closed the door, locked it, and stood there in my hallway, heart pounding. The harassment began 3 days later. First, the phone calls. Michael called 7 times in one day. Jessica called 4. I let them all go to voicemail. Mom, we need to talk about this like adults. Dorothy, I really think you should reconsider. Michael is your only family. This is insane. You're being completely irrational. Call me back. Mom, I'm worried about you. This isn't like you. Have you been feeling okay? Maybe you should see a doctor. There it was, the suggestion that I was mentally unwell. I saved every voicemail. Then came the emails, long, rambling messages from Jessica about family responsibility and honoring Frank's memory. She included links to articles about elderly people being taken advantage of by strangers, with pointed comments about how important it was for family to protect aging parents. I saved those too. Then came the visit from Michael's oldest friend, David, who happened to be in the neighborhood and wanted to check in on me. David, who I hadn't seen in 5 years. David, who asked pointed questions about my health, my memory, whether I was seeing anyone new in my life. Did Michael send you? I asked directly. David's face gave him away before he could formulate a lie. Thank you for stopping by, I said, showing him to the door. You can tell Michael I'm perfectly fine and perfectly aware of what he's doing. 1 week after the garage text, my phone rang at 7 a.m., Michael's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer, but something, maternal instinct perhaps, or simple curiosity, made me pick up. Mom, his voice was raw, cracked. He was crying. Michael? Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, I need to see you. I made a terrible mistake. Jessica, she convinced me. I didn't mean any of it. Please, Mom, please. I sat down on my bed, my heart twisting despite everything. What happened, Michael? She left. Jessica left. She took the kids and she... A broken sob. She cleaned out our bank account. The house is in foreclosure. Mom, I have nothing. I'm losing everything. For a long moment, I was silent. Michael, I finally said, where are you? I'm outside. Please, can I come in? I just need to talk to you. I need my mom. I walked to the front window and moved the curtain aside. His car was in the driveway again. I could see him in the driver's seat, phone pressed to his ear. I need my mom. How many times had I longed to hear those words? How many times had I wished my son would need me, really need me, not for money or favors, but just for comfort? I unlocked the front door. He stumbled inside, looking 10 years older than he had a week ago. Unshaven, red-eyed, clothes wrinkled. He smelled like he hadn't showered in days. "Michael?" I reached out. He collapsed into my arms, sobbing like he was 8 years old again, like he'd fallen off his bicycle and needed his mother to make it better. "I'm sorry," he kept repeating. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean any of it. Jessica, she was always pushing, always saying we deserved more, that you were selfish for not sharing. I was so stupid. I'm so stupid." I held him. What else could I do? He was my son. Even after everything, I made him tea. I listened to his story, Jessica's spending habits he'd hidden from me, the credit card debt that had spiraled out of control, the affair she'd apparently been having with her business partner for 2 years. She hadn't just left. She'd planned it meticulously, draining accounts, canceling credit cards, leaving him with nothing but debt and a mortgage 3 months behind. "I have nowhere to go," he said hollowly. "The bank has taken the house next month. I have nothing, Mom. Nothing." I sat across from him at my kitchen table, and I felt, what? Pity, certainly. He was my son, and he was in pain. But I also felt something else, something that had been growing since that text message. Clarity. "Michael," I said quietly, "do you remember what you said to me? That I should sleep in the garage?" He flinched. "Do you remember telling me that the house should have been in your name years ago? That I needed to face reality?" "Mom, do you remember the $45,000 I gave you for your down payment? The $28,000 for Jessica's car? The $35,000 in loans that you never repaid, never even mentioned repaying?" He was silent. "I've been doing some calculating," I continued. "Over the years, I've given you and Jessica over $150,000. And in return, you tried to take my home from me. You wanted to put me in the garage like an unwanted piece of furniture." I know, and I'm sorry." "Sorry isn't enough, Michael." He looked up, fear creeping into his eyes. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I've changed my will. You're no longer in it. The money I would have left you, all of it, is going to charity." His face went white. "Mom, you can't." "I can. I already have. But I'm your son, and I'm your mother, a mother you tried to banish to a garage." I stood up, suddenly exhausted. "I want you to leave now, Michael. But I have nowhere to go. There are homeless shelters, churches, your friend David, perhaps." "Mom, please." "No." The word came out harder than I intended, but I didn't soften it. "I spent my whole life putting you first, making excuses for your behavior, cleaning up your messes, giving you money whenever you asked. And what did I get? A text message telling me to sleep in the garage. I was wrong. I know I was wrong." "Yes, you were, and now you get to learn what that means." I walked to the front door and opened it. "Goodbye, Michael." He didn't move for a long moment. Then slowly he stood, walked toward me, stopped in the doorway. "Will you ever forgive me?" I looked at my son, this stranger wearing my child's face, and I told him the truth. "I don't know, but I know I won't forget, and I know I won't let you hurt me again." He left. I closed the door and locked it. Then I sat down on my couch, in my house, in my life, and I realized I was